On today's show, we'll be hosting the very first Two Black Nerds Summer Movie Draft. That's right. We'll each be picking 10 movies that we think will reign supreme this summer movie season, as well as share our predictions and thoughts on which movie will win the box office. But before we get to any and all of that, we're kicking off this podcast with our general thoughts about the upcoming summer movie season ahead. So, I don't know if you heard this, but a few years ago, there was a pandemic on Earth.
No way.
Kind of took out the movies for a bit there. There were no big movies that were dropping in the summer. 2021, we started to rally back, started to get back to some sense of normalcy. There were some movies dropping in the summer. And then last year, we started to see a little bit more of a regular cadence of movies that were going to come out. But I got to say, I think that this is the first year since the pandemic where it actually feels like we're getting a proper summer movie season where there is literally something dropping every single weekend. In fact, there's multiple weekends that have multiple movies coming out. So there's just an increase overall in the volume that we're seeing in both big budget movies, but also maybe some smaller independent films as well. There's genre variety. There's stuff coming from all the studios and even streamers as well. So there's going to be a very, very busy summer movie season ahead. I just kind of want to get your thoughts and feelings on the outlook in terms of things that we're going to get this upcoming season, how you're feeling about it. Are you excited that it feels like the movies are properly back and that we're going to get just so much in terms of new movie releases this upcoming summer? What do you think about it all?
Man, it's overwhelming for sure. I think this is definitely a result of the depression that existed because of the pandemic. You know, you talk about those years in which it's coming back. This summer even feels like it's even being overdone by ways in a normal summer. Like summer 2017, pretty sure it wasn't as many movies, crazy blockbuster, whatever movies coming out in 2017, 2018, like it is this year. Like this is really, I think, a reflection of the years past, the times we've been in. People have been excited to tell their stories in movie theaters. People have been excited to have summer blockbusters as well. I think there's a moment where there's so many movie studios and actors and filmmakers that are like, I don't want to put my movie out right now because nobody's going to go see it. But now after this past year, specifically 2022, the year we've had, I think we're back in a space where people feel like they have the goose spot, like they have the mustard to finally put some of these movies out, man, to come out and to say, no, it's time to put my movie on the big screen. You know, a big example of that for me, to be honest, we'll talk about this movie for sure throughout this podcast, is Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan loves for his movies to be seen on the biggest screens possible. And this is not Tenet for him anymore. This is not people probably aren't going to see my movie. This is people are going outside and will probably go watch Oppenheimer at some point this summer. And I think kind of that even to me reflects what this summer will be, man. And I think people are hopeful that it's going to be something different, you know, this summer. It really is. The energy is back. Sure, 2021, 2022, we're like, we're kind of back, but this is different. And so I'm very excited to see these films. I'm very excited to see how different all these films are. None of them are like the other. I mean, shoot, we'll talk about some competitions later, which they are far, far, far from each other. But I think it's all in the interest of good movies, good cinema, and good summer blockbuster movie watching and action, man. I'm pretty excited at what's to come.
It's a very exciting time, to say the least. There have certainly been a number of wins at the movies and the theatrical experience since the COVID-19 pandemic. You think about Spider-Man No Way Home, you think about Top Gun Maverick, Avatar The Way of Water, big, huge wins for those studios and those properties. But they also didn't necessarily have the same amount of volume in terms of their competition to face on a week-to-week basis, especially like a Spider-Man No Way Home coming out at the end of 2021. It was a bold move, but it was also a very measured move on the part of Sony and Marvel to release that particular time frame in winter of 2021, because it was just nothing out. Like nobody was going to the movies. We also were still in the midst of the Warner Brothers HBO Max day and date situation. A lot of movies were getting sent directly to streaming. Now in 2023, as we head into the summer, this does feel like the first time where the majority of movie studios are prioritizing the theatrical experience. There is still a hefty amount of stuff to come out on streamers as well, as we know is always the case from the big streamers like Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu. And you just bring all that together and it's going to make up for a very, very busy season. And I think it's a little interesting that we're coming off of the heels of CinemaCon, which is the the convention specifically for movie theater exhibitors to just see the outlook of everything that's going to come out over the next few months, because it's a really exciting time. It's also
Mhm.
somewhat of a concerning time when you do look at some of these big studio tentpole pictures that are going to be either directly in competition with each other, or they're going to be closely in competition with other movies that come out in the week before, the week after. And so I think we often wonder, and maybe even, start to suspect, like, will this movie perform as well as it could have if it had maybe come out in the fall instead of the summer? Because I think we're now starting to see that the month in which you release is starting to matter a little bit less and less. Like, we've seen movies come out in February and in April do incredibly successful
Mhm.
business. The Super Mario Brothers just came out a few weeks ago at the top of April in the middle of Easter, and it's already crossed $1 billion. And so some might argue that the summer movie season has already started, right? And so I think it's going to be a very interesting few months ahead, which is why we're here to talk about the summer movie season, just because of all the stuff that we have coming out. I know you and we're going to have some very, very busy weekends ahead of us, but
Mhm.
before we fully dive into the summer movie season, we wanted to do something a little bit different. We wanted to do a new exercise and have a summer movie season draft. And this is the first time we're ever doing this, because this is also like really the first time we have so much variety to pick from. We have a wealth of options to choose from. So you might be asking yourself, what's the summer movie draft? Y'all haven't done this before. How is this going to go? I will tell you, these are the rules of the summer movie draft. So both of us are going to receive 10 overall draft picks that are currently slated to release this summer, meaning that 20 overall films will be selected. So Des will choose 10 movies. I will also choose 10 movies. Once a movie is selected, it's no longer eligible to be drafted. It will be taken off the board. And once selections are made, once our 10 movies are completely drafted and listed, we're not going to be able to make any changes to this list, because this is going to be an ongoing exercise, as you will learn shortly. The eligibility period for the films that will be selected, what we're considering to be the summer movie season, is going to start the weekend of May 5th with the wide release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And
Mhm.
that'll go all the way until Labor Day weekend with the wide release of The Equalizer 3. So we got two films that are closing out trilogies, sort of in an ironic way to be our closing, or at least our opening and closing point. So it's going to start with Guardians 3 and then go all the way to Labor Day with The Equalizer 3. Films that are being released both theatrically and or on streaming are eligible to be drafted. So this is not just theatrical releases. We can draft stuff
Mhm.
from streamers like Netflix, Hulu. If a movie is coming out with just a PVOD release, that can also be drafted. So we're actually looking at the full gamut of what's going to come out this year. Also, the films that are selected must have their first official wide release in the summer of 2023.
Mm.
Therefore, no re-releases can be selected. So, looking at you, Return of the Jedi, Indiana Jones, whatever plans you got, we can't choose Raiders of the Lost Ark. That would be cheating. No re-releases are going to count for this list. Only new releases. How are we going to determine the winner? So, after we do all of these selections, after we both build out our list, if you follow us on social media, you probably know Des and I are both avid users of Letterboxd, the social media platform, which is dedicated to film nerds and cinephiles and film critics all across the world. We go on there after every time after we see a movie, we rate it with 5 stars. If you don't know, the site has a 5-star rating scale, with each half star making it overall a 10-point scale system. And all films on Letterboxd actually have a weighted average score. That's basically the number that's accumulated that averages out all the scores from everybody that's rated a movie. And so what we're going to do at the end of the summer, after Labor Day weekend, after all of these movies have come out, we're going to take the weighted average scores of the 10 movies that we have both drafted, and then calculate the overall average of those 10 weighted average scores to determine who's going to be the winner. So whichever overall average is the highest will be determined the winner. If you need an example, if you go on Letterboxd, if you just look up, let's just say Dragon Ball Evolution, that
Oh my
weighted
God.
average score is like 0.7. It's very, very low. Whereas if you look at Everything Everywhere All at Once, that weighted average score is like a 4.4. And so once we average out all of those 10 films that we have both selected, whoever has the higher number, whoever has the overall higher score, will be declared the winner of the 2023 summer movie draft. My guy, Des, does that all make sense? Does that all feel clear to you? Do you feel ready for this? Are you good to go with the summer movie draft?
It is very clear to me. I am nervous, but I'm ready to go, man. It all makes sense.
You shouldn't be nervous. You are the winner of the Star Wars trivia competition. We should
Hey
also mention
man.
that you are coming off of a very, very big win
E
participating in the Star Wars trivia competition. So fate might be in your corner, my guy. You might got the hot streak
yeah,
going
I
for you. So
hope
we'll have to
so.
see. Before we get into this, we got to figure out, because this is a draft, we got to figure out who's going to go first. So we are actually going to do a live coin toss flip. So if you're listening, you can't see this, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. My guy, I'll let you choose. What are you going to choose, heads or tails?
Let's go tails.
Okay, tails it is. I will flip right now. It fell on the floor, but I'll I'll do that again so that we can see it on camera, so that we can actually get. I don't want to just say what it is. I'll actually do it one more time. Let's see. It fell again. I'm just gonna.
He's tearing this up. What is it?
It's heads. It landed on heads.
Okay. That's all right.
So it landed on heads, which means I will take the first pick and go in the summer movie draft.
Let's
And
do it.
again, people, these are movies that are going to be coming out this summer 2023 season. We're going to start with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy. That's going to start the eligibility period, and then it will end with the release of The Equalizer 3 during Labor Day weekend. So just again, as sort of a table setter for how this is going to go. So that being said, my first pick in the 2023 summer movie draft is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
That's
I
the
hate you
movie
so
I'm choosing. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, that has to be the number one overall pick, regardless.
Yeah, it has to.
Everything is pointing to that movie being an absolute phenomenal follow-up to that first movie we got a few years ago, which is already sort of an instant classic. I can't wait for Across the Spider-Verse. All the trailers have been top tier, phenomenal, and just the idea that they're going to expand out this universe and take us to all these different places across the universe is going to be really, really cool to see. So I'm just super excited about it, and I think by all accounts, it's going to be very, very well received. And again, as a pick, the idea for these picks is to pick what we think are going to be the best received movies. You know, this is not basing it off the box office. This is not basing it off of necessarily award wins, but just based off of critical consensus, right? And so when you look on Letterboxd, those Spider-Verse movies, they do pretty well. And so that's going to be my first pick, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Man, what a great choice, and obviously also would have been my first pick. But yeah, what a great start to a list, man. My first pick, man, this is hard, man. It's a lot of stuff coming out. My first pick is I'm gonna go with Oppenheimer, man. I
Oh,
am. I'm gonna
wow.
go, yep, because I think Christopher Nolan has some pent up anger when it comes to movies and box offices, and I think he's about to go off. I really do. The energy for this movie is kind of crazy, not necessarily from people to person, but from Christopher Nolan himself. He has planted a poster in the movie theater that we frequently go to, and a lot of movie theaters across the country as well. He planted a poster with the countdown of Oppenheimer, the release date of the film, like 8 months in advance. This has already been in our theater for like the past 5 months. And we still have like 2.5 months to go until we watch that film. And so I something about it, something about Cillian Murphy, something about Christopher Nolan hadn't been in theater, like a real theater experience in a long time, with how weird Tenet went down. I just have a feeling Oppenheimer is going to be is not necessarily a sleeper, but maybe something to marvel at after we see it. So I'm gonna go with Oppenheimer first.
He's also very, very, very angry and has a grudge against Warner Brothers after the shit
Exactly.
that they pulled a few years ago with the day and day release. I mean, he called them, the best studio turned into the worst streaming service. And so he took his business
Ooh.
and went over to Universal. This is really kind of the first time he hasn't partnered with Warner Brothers on distributing his film in a very long time. I mean, he had carte blanche over at that studio, and now Universal has given him the keys to the kingdom to just do whatever he wants. He is one of the most powerful directors in Hollywood, and history proves his movies do very, very well in terms of critical reaction, and specifically on Letterboxd. The Letterboxd community loves Christopher Nolan, so that's a really good pick. I'm jealous because it was certainly on my list and it was high. Let's move on. Second pick. My second pick is going to be Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Look, man,
too well.
don't bet against Tom Cruise. Do not bet against Tom Cruise, especially after Top Gun Maverick. Oh, I have nothing but high faith in the biggest movie star in the world coming through and delivering again. And not only Top Gun Maverick, the last Mission Impossible movie probably the best Mission Impossible movie. And so we're just ramping up. This is the first part of a two-part finale. We've seen extended looks of all the crazy sequences and the stunts and Tom Cruise just wanting to die every time out. And so I'm here for it. I'm showing up opening day at the movies to see Tom Cruise risk his life for my entertainment. So that's going to be my second pick, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Man, Mission Impossible Fallout will always be, I think, one of my most treasured memories for us as going to movies as a unit. Because we left that movie like, what the hell is
In
this man
silence.
on? It was just crazy, man. But yeah, that very good pick, also really high on my list. But I already knew what you were going for. I know you so well. Man, my next pick, and this was kind of hard just because this is me going off of just what I love, I think, and also just it's a lot of I'm leaning on faith with this one. All right, my next pick is actually Pixar's Elemental.
Wow.
I
Okay.
know,
I
crazy,
didn't
right?
expect that.
Crazy, right? It's probably higher than it should be, but this is me going out on a limb because Pixar is historically just great. And a lot of the films that have come out of Pixar that we love. I mean, when you think about it, if you like a Pixar movie or love a Pixar movie, it's probably a 10 out of 10. Like a lot of times, it's not like a 3.5 out of 5. It's not like a 4 out of 5. Usually, if it's a Pixar movie you like, it's a 10 out of 10. And so I'm going with Pixar's Elemental. Again, it's a risk because Pixar hasn't been, I think, as together as we're used to them being. That's mainly a box office thing though. Like people still really like Soul, you know what I mean, and things like that. So I'm really going just again based off me loving Pixar movies, man. I really love The Incredibles and Toy Story 2 and all of these things. I'm hoping that the energy of this summer, as crazy as it is, that they can put together another movie that is memorable, that everyone comes to love, man. And Pixar's coming out in the summer. It just feels like some kind of sign that this movie might be good, man. So I'm really looking forward to Pixar's Elemental.
They also have a chip on their shoulder too. Like you said, some of their recent releases, not bad movies, but they have not lived in the same praise and light that we normally sort of associate with Pixar. And so it does feel like they have something to prove. This is also like a movie they've been promoting for quite a while. I think more so
Mm-hmm.
than some of their other recent releases. And so it'll be interesting. This film's also coming out as the same weekend of The Flash, so two different
Crazy.
audiences, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
more family oriented versus like the more comic book superhero audience. But that'll also be interesting just to see how that competition shakes out in that particular opening weekend. I think it's June 16th when both of those films drop. So good pick for sure. Next one on my list, number 3 pick is going to be, and I had to debate about this. I got a few wild cards for me, but I'm gonna go Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We
Yep.
we just talked a lot about the history of the Guardians in the MCU on our most recent episode. I know we're both very, very much looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It isn't risky per se. I mean, James Gunn and that whole cast and crew is proven, but the MCU is in a bit of a weird state right now. They need a
Yeah.
win. This feels like the win that they need. This feels like the movie that's gonna not necessarily make us say that the MCU is back, because I wouldn't go that far just yet, but I think it's gonna at least start to restore those sentiments of faith that we have in everything that the MCU hopefully has coming out over the next few months, leading us into phase 5 and phase 6. But this has been my most trusted franchise for a while within the MCU
Mm-hmm.
in terms of quality. And again, speaking to the quality of it and speaking to hopefully the positive reaction that it sees once it comes out this upcoming weekend, I'm going to go ahead and pick Guardians Volume 3 for my third pick.
Yeah, man, it's a good pick. We both love Guardians. We both love James Gunn. I think the dude has proven himself time and time again why he's in the position he's in. That being said, this next movie has been on the table too long, and I might as well make it one of my movies, man. I have to go with The Flash. I do.
Oh, I was going to
I do.
get that one.
I know you were, but it's funny because if you asked me like 2 years ago if the Flash would be on this list, I would have. You know me, man. I would have never put the Flash on the list. But between CinemaCon and the early reactions and the trailers and just the consistency between the word of mouth with the crazy looking trailers and what we've seen from there, I gotta go with the Flash, man. It's looking pretty good for whether that's for better or for worse. I don't know where you want to put that at. Low key, this isn't like also set in stone either. This is also a little risky given the state of DC and their what they've been doing in their slate, as well as where James Gunn is going to go. I think you never really know how you're exactly going to feel. I actually had a friend who's seen she's seen the Flash at CinemaCon, and she was one of the people that was like, they kind of overrating it. So I again, not necessarily a super safe pick per se, but not a 100% risky one either. It's really kind of in the middle right now until the movie comes out. So who knows? We'll see. But The Flash.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to, for us to finally see it and get a chance to talk about it. There is a level of uncertainty, but also a level of just hype and excitement and anticipation for it, because it is getting just such positive word of mouth from all the people who've seen it before. And the surprises apparently that are a part of this movie seem to be pretty big in their stature. But one does wonder, what's the general public going to think about it? I think, a lot of times when crowds see stuff early, they're super excited. They get to see it before anybody. And so just that excitement kind of carries over into your thoughts and reactions. Whereas like once it publicly hits and, the dust settles, now people can be a little bit more real about it. But, between Guardians Volume 3 and The Flash, I'm wondering what's going to be better. I'm wondering what's going to come out as like the movie that I like better. My gut instinct tells me like, okay, Guardians Volume 3, it's super proven. Like we've been there before. It's going to conclude that whole thing. But The Flash also just has a level of unpredictability to it, and also a lot of nostalgia that they can leverage and hopefully utilize. So a lot of stuff that they can lean on. So we'll see once that movie drops. And look, Sasha Calle looks extraordinary. So
so good.
No doubt about it. So let's move on. My number 4 pick for the 2023 summer movie draft, it's going to be Barbie. I'm picking Barbie for my number 4 pick, which again, coming into this year, could not have predicted that. But look, Barbie seems to be a movie that is not only generating just a lot of conversation, people are seeing like it's going viral, but also Greta Gerwig. Greta Gerwig has directed 2 great movies, Little Women and damn, what's even her first one? I forget the name of it already. With Saoirse Ronan. I mean, the movie that put her on the map, but she's an incredible
Lady Bird.
Lady Bird. She's an incredible director. Those 2 movies are both, exceptional in their own right. And so I think she's going to bring something super different to Barbie, something very unpredictable. I think on the surface, it looks like one thing. It looks like a nice popcorn movie, a nice summer flick, Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie, this incredible supporting cast, but it also feels like there's going to be so much more to it. And it's kind of been the talk of internet and online chatter ever since the trailer dropped a few weeks ago, and people started to take the memes and make it viral. I think there's going to be a big moment around Barbie. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the board and put that as my next pick on number 4.
I like that, man. Especially Greta Gerwig has never made a movie to this extent. Like, I don't know. I'm really excited about what it's going to look like. Also love that Issa Rae is a freaking Black Barbie in the movie. Like I'm excited just for that. I think that's pretty dope. My next choice, where we at? What number is this? This is number 4 for me. Will be Joyride. Is my
damn it.
Yep. Man. I am so excited for this movie. In recent years, some of the best content has just come from really Asian descent casts, whether it's Korean movies, Japanese movies. Really, those are the 2 biggest ones, Korean and Japanese. But man, it's they have been going crazy between Crazy Rich Asians, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Burning. What's the A24 film with Stephen Yeun in it?
Minari.
Lee Isaac, Minari. I mean, you name it. The Farewell. They have kind of just been going stupid over and over and over. And Joyride looks like no exception to that. You have the Academy nominated Stephanie Hsu, who's going to be in that movie, along with a more tremendous cast. It just looks good. It looks funny. And I'm excited to watch it, man. But I think it might be one of those, like, we understand how it's going to be. I don't think the people understand yet, right? Because I remember when like Crazy Rich Asians came out, that was like a word of mouth thing. Like a lot of people were like, "What? That movie's good," and then they went to go see it. This is like, I think people need to pay attention to Joyride, so I'm pretty excited to watch it.
we need a raunchy comedy. We don't get raunchy, over the top, wild, very explicit comedies anymore. Not the traditional ones in the vein of, the Knocked Ups and Super Bads and all those
Exactly.
people, that really,
Mm-hmm.
took their name in the mid 2000s there. And so Joyride is sort of calling back to that. Not to mention Seth Rogen is of course on as a producer. It just looks like it's so much fun. And I know it also had a premiere at CinemaCon this past week. Heard nothing but great stuff about it.
Mm-hmm.
That looks to be like a great movie experience that I'm just so ready and eager to check out this summer. So that's a great pick for sure. Number five pick, we're gonna keep moving here. My number five in the 2023 summer movie draft is going to be Asteroid City. I'm picking Wes
Yeah.
Anderson's new movie, Asteroid City, which, you know, I didn't really enjoy The French Dispatch, his most recent movie, when I saw it. I went to the theaters and saw it, and I left a little bit disappointed. It didn't really connect and create a cohesive experience for me, but largely Wes Anderson has so many movies that I love and adore and enjoy. And so I just have faith that he's going to return to form, at least for me. I also should really rewatch the French Dispatch. I just might have been in I don't know, a weird place when I saw it. Sometimes that happens. We see a lot. So I need
Yeah.
to recheck it out. But Asteroid City just looks super interesting. It looks fun. It looks like it might be some sort of a extraterrestrial adventure. Obviously, it has an
Mm-hmm.
incredible cast like he always assembles. It's going to have the style and the flair of Wes Anderson. And so I'm very much looking forward to and hoping that this is the Wes Anderson that I fell in love with a long time ago in terms of his filmmaking ability. So it looks to be a really good experience.
Yeah, man. The dude, we were just talking about it, but he is one of the best, I think, production designing directors ever, man. And color graders, everything he has just looks so good, man. It's kind of crazy. And it wouldn't surprise me if like Greta Gerwig got a little bit of that for Barbie, low key. Because when I look at Barbie, I'm like, this is very Wes Anderson-y when I see it. So man, I'm very excited to check out Asteroid City as well. Man, I had to throw horror in the list somewhere, dog. My next pick is Talk to Me. And
The good one.
I am very excited to see this movie. It looks so different because it almost feels like they give you like, I don't know if too much is the word, but a lot in the trailer, which makes me excited because this is A24 first and foremost. And I know that like there's always something beyond the trailer when it comes to A24. So it looks really good. Sophia Wilde is the main character. I mean, how I have to reiterate this. How many horror films center black women as the main character? Not a lot. And Talk to Me is doing exactly that. It's literally, it looks scary. It's a big ass hand with writing on it. Don't know what it means, but it looks good to me, man. And I think A24 as just they're just trusted at this point in time. Of course, everything is not a banger, right? But this looks good to me. I'm
Yeah, I
excited.
mean, it premiered at Sundance, and so A24 obviously got a hold of it and wanted to, be the distributors for it. So that feels like it's a good sign. That feels like it's a vote of confidence in Talk to Me, and the trailer does look super interesting. I can't wait to check this one out just to see what's behind the surface because you never really know until you walk into that theater to watch an A24 horror movie. It's definitely a unique experience. My next pick, my number six pick in the summer movie draft is going to be, and I'm very nervous about this one. I will be honest. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is my next
Mm,
pick. And I'm
yeah,
putting it on my list because James Mangold is a beast. He's an
he's
incredible
beast.
director. Ford v Ferrari, Logan, even the Wolverine. And then you take it back to earlier movies like Copland or the stuff that he did with Joaquin in
Yep.
the biopic for Johnny Cash. I mean, he's a proven director. He's a really
Hmm.
talented filmmaker. The Indiana Jones piece of it is what worries me, just because coming off of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or whatever that movie was, which is not
Hmm.
great, not a film that I particularly enjoy. I'm just putting my faith and my hope in Harrison and James Mangold that they can bring home this franchise and bring home Harrison Ford's run as Indy, because this will be the last time he suits up as Indy. He's made that very clear, and so I'm just hoping that it's the sign off that we hope it to be. And if anything, we can look towards in terms of faith. I mean, Logan is right there. Hugh Jackman had the perfect send off with Logan. He's going to come back in Deadpool 3, which I'm still excited about. But if a man knows how to do send offs, it's James Mangold. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my list and keep my fingers crossed for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Man, what a tremendous pick. Yeah, it's like you said, it is a little bit scary just because of the Indiana Jones of it all. But I believe in James Mangold so much. I really do. He's so good. You talk about Ford versus Ferrari. What a movie. Logan. Man, I still sometimes don't think we talk about Logan enough. That movie is nuts. Like
Incredible.
that movie is crazy, man. I can't believe he got it made. It's just wild when you watch it. You're like, this is happening on screen. I love it, man. My next movie, man. This is hard, man. Okay, number 6. I am going to go with this, and this is yeah, this was kind of scary too, because you don't really know where it's going to land, but this one is definitely a small swing, man. I'm going to go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mayhem.
Okay. Okay.
Yep, yep, because how many times have we seen a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle project and they actually feel like teenagers, like to this degree? It's very rare, right? Where, of course, original Teenage Mutant Turtles, whether it's the cartoon or the movies, of course, they feel like teenagers, but here they feel like their voices are about to crack and, like, you know what I mean? And they're doing crazy stuff on roofs for no reason versus, I don't know, the normal Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's more like we know they're teenage, but they still feel like they're slightly being scaled up to the older version of teenage. These feel like even 13-year-olds versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles we're used to usually feel like 17 or 18 even. This feels like a very early version of what the Ninja Turtles is. It almost feels like, in fact, watching the trailer, it does feel like they got a lot of inspiration from Into the Spider-Verse, right? Where
Yeah.
it does feel like a young Miles Morales, where it feels like, okay, young Miles Morales, let's do young Donnie. Let's do Miles Morales' version of Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Donatello. It just feels like that. And I love that feeling. And another project, Seth Rogen clearly is going to own the summer because he's on this project as well. But like it looks good. I think it looks funny, and I think they might have something here, man. Well, I don't know yet. Again, Ninja Turtle projects have been all over the place since the beginning of time, but I think we might be in a moment where they can shine here with something like this.
I certainly hope so. I agree. I mean, that teenage element has not been often explored in live action and or theatrically released animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. And yeah, I think just the flavor here of the film feels very true yet different to the
Mhm.
brand of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And like you said, that Spider-Verse influence is there. This could be the surprise hit of the summer. I think there's always like the surprise of like something you don't necessarily see or predict that's gonna, really capture people's attention. But this feels like that has that potential to do so, and I really hope so. I would love for it to far exceed expectations of what's out there for it. So that's a great one for sure. My next pick, speaking of possible surprises, this is a risk for me. It might tank my overall rating, but I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna pick Strays, the dog movie, the talking dogs movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna pick that one. That's coming out from Universal. Will Ferrell's a part of it. Jamie Foxx. If you've seen the trailer, you know that this looks like a crazy, just over the top, ridiculous movie. Talking dogs, cursing dogs at that. They are filthy at the mouth, and I mean that both literally and figuratively. You took the one comedy that I was gonna draft in Joyride, but if
hmm
I had to look at another just traditional true blue comedy and put a little bit of faith behind it, I'm gonna go ahead and take Strays. Beyond the trailer, don't know much else about it, but the trailer made me laugh. I'm just hoping that they didn't include all the funny moments in the trailer and that there's nothing else funny in the movie. But we'll have to see. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Strays on the list.
Man, I like that though, because it's actually a pretty good trailer. It makes me laugh. It makes me actually want to watch it. Plus, if you've ever seen movies like that, I don't know, something that feels different about this. They're like, hey, here's this Beverly Hills Chihuahua looking movie. And then you're like, wait a second, this is not what this is at all. It's not even close. So I kind of love that approach that they're taking with Strays, man. It could be a surprise hit, low key. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go with another horror film. The trailer for this movie just has me very excited. Something about it. And I'm gonna go with The Black Girl and Her Monster, man. It
Mm-hmm.
is it's been a second, I think, since I've seen somebody have a take on something that's interesting. And Black Girl and Her Monster is very clearly a take on Frankenstein. And it just looks good to me. I think the trailer is fire. The music of the trailer is fire. The slow motion being used in the trailer is fire. And the main actress, what is her name? I don't know why I'm forgetting. Oh, Leon Hayes. She actually plays Agraboda in the God of War franchise.
Mm.
And yeah, it just looks good, man. It looks different. And we need. I love betting on black horror. That's what this is. Me. That's me. That's what I'm doing here. I'm betting on black horror, and it looks good to me. So yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, the trailer for that is super interesting and it looks just like unlike anything else that's out there. I can't wait to check that one out for sure. Speaking of black, I'm gonna go ahead and pick a primarily black casted movie that's actually not coming out in theaters. It's coming out on Netflix, and that's
Yep.
finally they clone Tyrone, which does have a release date this summer. This movie was supposed to come out last year, and I know we both have been looking forward to it. And surprise, surprise, I picked a Netflix movie. I will let y'all know that this is likely the only Netflix movie I'm picking for this list, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very excited for it. Tiana Paris, Jamie Foxx once again here, and John Boyega. It's looking like black sci-fi, really throwback to the 70s, black exploitation energy. It just looks fun. It just looks like it's really interesting. I'm just hoping it comes through and delivers. I tend to not watch too many streaming movies these days because they just aren't hitting for me. They aren't doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the one that I'm holding out some faith for. And the fact that they have held it for a long time, that could be somewhat concerning because I don't really know what the reason is, but I'm also just hoping like, hey, maybe they're trying to get this movie in the best place that it can be. And I think that this is coming out at a very crowded time too. If I'm not mistaken, this might drop the same weekend as Barbie and Oppenheimer. So that's going to be just a
Ooh.
unreal time for us, both in theaters and at home watching films on streaming. But gonna go ahead and drop They Clone Tyrone in my number 8 spot.
They clone Tyrone. Man, what a I'm pretty excited for that movie. I wish they was doing a theatrical release, actually. I wish like Netflix
I
was
do
like,
too.
let's put this out in theaters. Cause shoot, Jamie Foxx, John Boyega, people go to the theater. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a great pick, man. It was also on my list, but man, yeah, I think it's gonna be fire. I am going to take another swing as well. And this is a swing, boy, but it's because I think people are coming around. This is a sequel movie. People are like coming around to understanding the original more than other people do. Again, it's a swing, but it's probably a terrible swing. It's probably gonna jack up my whole list. My eighth pick is the Meg 2.
Oh, you're swinging for sure.
I'm swinging.
Yeah, that's the big one.
I am swinging. And the first Meg is I didn't understand it at first. I was like, what is this movie?
It's so
What am I?
strange.
But and then I remember watching it for like it might have been the second time. I think the first time I wasn't paying attention because I don't think I seen this in theaters. I think I seen this on streaming somewhere or something. And I watched it and I was like, wait a second, this movie is hilarious. Do we understand what's happening here? In my mind, the fact that they got greenlit to do a second one, there has to be something there. I don't know what it is, but there has to be something there.
The
So
first one
I
made a
am
lot of money, actually. I don't think anybody, it made like over 500 million at the box office off of
crazy.
that crazy ass movie.
The movie is insane. But when you understand what they're doing, it's so funny and it actually has its place. So I'm hoping they understand that and they can do something else with the second one. But it had to be on my list because it's so ridiculous. This is like of all the movies I've said, this is the most like, what are you talking about, Des? Kind of type thing. And I had to have one of those picks on here. But yeah, I'm going with the Meg too.
I actually love that because, who knows? Again, the Meg could be. I think that now because they've greenlit the sequel and they've seen the reaction from that first one and they kind of know how it exists within conversation of movies, I think that they're going to lean into that completely for the second one. And so it'll
Yep.
be even more of what we like about that first one. Because the first one, it's not a great movie, but it is like some
Exactly.
hilarious, crazy stuff a part of
Mm-hmm.
it. And so people might just have a great time knowing it for what it is. And so I like that. I think it's an interesting pick for sure. The next one I'm going to throw on my list, and I had to think about this a lot. It almost kind of went forgotten by me, but I had to remember, like, yeah, this is coming out in the summer, and that's going to be Blue Beetle. I'm going to go ahead and pick Blue Beetle
Yes.
as the
Great
next
pick.
pick. That trailer surprised me by how much I enjoyed it. It looks to be a ton of fun. I don't think it's going to necessarily make a lot of money. I don't think a lot of people are going to see it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
people who do see it are going to watch it and say, like, wow, that feels refreshing for DC. That feels like a step in the right direction, even though all the plans and everything that they have for DC is going to be shaken up real soon with James Gunn and Peter Safran and their new universe. But Blue Beetle feels like the early days, and I hate to say this, if you're a diehard DC, but it feels like the early days of Marvel when we were getting those origin stories that felt very fun, just felt very energetic and had a lighter tone. very much leaning into a teenager, sort of getting these powers and figuring out, how do I fit within this superhero landscape in this universe. And
Yeah.
also because it is like somewhat separate from what they've done so far, if it's good and people like it, there's potential that they could still keep going forward with it. That doesn't necessarily impact like what we're doing here with the draft, but I do have somewhat of high hopes for Blue Beetle just based off of the trailer. If it just felt like a very fun time, and so I'm hoping that it actually delivers from a quality perspective. So we'll see, but that's going to be my ninth pick.
That's also one of the movies I am like thinking way too far ahead about, and I shouldn't be. I should be taking the movie for what it is because Jaime Reyes, man, is just after being in the age, I think of Young Justice and seeing what that is, seeing Jaime potentially be part of another team excites me. And so yeah, it's just really cool. The fact that Blue Beetle is about to exist in a live action, again, one of them things you got to pinch me, bro. Like it's just really hard to believe. So I'm actually pretty excited to see Blue Beetle, man. So yeah, what a good pick. I am going to pick. Okay, this one it's kind of left, but not left for me. If you know me, I'm going for The Last Voyage of Demeter. Now, this is, listen, y'all. I know a lot of people listening to this don't know what the hell this movie is. It is a vampire movie in the middle of the ocean. Like they're on a boat and there's like it's insane. It
It
looks like
looks
what
good
it
too.
looks really good. It's like, what the hell is this movie? But I'm here for it. If you know me, I really love vampire stuff. I really am here for it. I think they might have something. We'll have to see, but the premise is just interesting to me. We've got plenty of vampire films. How many vampire films have we gotten in the middle of the ocean on people where people are like just on a boat? There's nothing they can do. This is and that's really cool to me. Actually, kind of reminds me of like a Jeepers Creepers almost, right? Where like Jeepers
Mm.
Creepers 2, they're stuck on the bus. There's not much they can do. They're just stuck on the bus. And this is kind of a reimagining of that idea, but with a vampire. So I really like that idea. Yeah, I think it's going to be cool, man. We've never gotten, at least not to my knowledge, we've never gotten anything like it. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember first seeing this trailer when we went to go see Renfield, and I said, "Wait, we're getting two Dracula movies in the same year. Here we go again." But as I sat there and watched it, I was like, "Wait, this actually looks like really, really fun and looks really entertaining and violent and vicious." And as you said, the premise in and of itself is kind of different. It's not just Dracula, drinking blood and stalking prey, like you said. They're stuck at sea on a ship, with no sort of sanctity or safety around them. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
tough times on that ship. So I'm very excited to actually see that because it all looks like it's going to be a really good experience. So I'm hoping it's good for sure. And we've reached our last picks, and so we both have one more pick. Our 10th pick has arrived, and so for this one, I'm gonna go with something I don't really know much about, but it's intriguing me, and it's also maybe just a sign of the times and where things might be headed in the next year or next few years. My 10th pick is going to be Gran Turismo. I'm picking Gran
Mm,
Turismo, which is coming out this August. If you know Gran Turismo, that's a popular video game franchise from Sony. There have been a ton of Gran Turismo games. I got to be honest, I'm not really a huge Gran Turismo video game fan. I remember trying to play them, and it was just like,
yeah,
this is way too realistic for me. Like,
it's
it's
too
just
boring.
too
It's boring.
boring. It's very realistic. Like, we're not getting no type of flavor or style or culture. It's just like you on the track and you just driving and you driving at a
Yeah.
steady pace. It just didn't do anything for me. But
Mm-mm.
in terms of an adaptation, I think that they could probably do something interesting with this. David Harbour is in it, and so I like him a lot. Also, it feels like we are in a changing of the guard for video game adaptations coming into live action movies, and I'm just like keeping my fingers crossed. Like, let's just keep that momentum going. Last of Us did extraordinarily well on HBO. The Super Mario Brothers movie is doing big, big business. Can't forget about Sonic Detective Pikachu. Maybe Gran Turismo can bring something else entirely different for video game adaptations coming to the big screen. So that's going to be my last roll of the dice pick, but I'm going to add it to the board. Gran Turismo is my number 10.
Yeah, Gran Turismo the game also came out in a weird time, man. Where like we're playing Need for Speed Underground 2, Midnight Club, and you
Oh,
think Gran Turismo is going to be interesting to us?
dub edition? Are you kidding
Come
me?
on, there's just no way you thought that game was going to be interesting. It wasn't for us though. It's clearly
That's
for some
true.
old dudes somewhere. Plus, it's Neil Blomkamp is low key like pretty decent, bro. I
Hey,
really
District
like District
9.
9.
Yeah.
I really like District 9. Like that movie's underrated to me. Elysium's cool, Chappie's cool, but District 9 is still a sleeper to me, man. So we'll see if he bring something to Gran Turismo. It's a very different movie for him. Thinking about it.
Yeah,
Gran
for
Turismo was
sure.
kind of his ballpark. So yeah, maybe that's a good thing though. So yeah, I'm we'll see how that goes. My last pick is, I don't know if safe pick is the word, but I am I'm just gonna go with Past Lives, man. I call it safe because it's 824. It's like a romantic kind of movie. But I love those. I love those patient. We just talked about Rye Lane on the podcast and how much we enjoyed that film. I also just talked about how crazy South Korea has been going over the past couple years, and I just have a feeling Past Lives is just going to be another one of those films that cements everything they've been doing the past couple of years. So I'm actually really excited to see Past Lives as well. But I think a little more safer pick because of the nature of the film, and everything surrounding it. But yeah, I'm going with Past Lives.
It looks like a pure quality movie. Just watching it, I'm like, yeah, that feels like it's going to be very, very good. And, maybe nobody will really see it, but we're going to see it and we're going to walk out like, damn, that was like the best movie of 2023, probably.
Yep.
Right. Like it's very possible that we walk out with that type of reaction. So that does it. Those are our 10 picks. Let's recount them for those listening and those watching. Our 10 picks. I'll go through mine really quickly. My 10 picks in the summer movie draft are: number 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse; number 2, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1; number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3; number 4, Barbie; number 5, Asteroid City; number 6, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny; number 7, Strays; number 8, They Clone Tyrone; number 9, Blue Beetle; and number 10, Gran Turismo.
Man, your list is fire. Here is my list. Number 1, Oppenheimer; number 2, Pixar's Elemental; number 3, The Flash; number 4, Joyride; number 5, Talk to Me; number 6, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem; number 7, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster; number 8, The Meg 2, The Trench. I don't know, I had to add that voice to it because I know this movie's about to be ridiculous. Number 9, The Voyage of Demeter; and number 10, Past Lives.
You say my list is fire, but I gambled on a lot of blockbusters, and those can go very, very sideways a lot of the time. So we'll have to see. But before we get to blockbusters, we're going to talk more about blockbusters in a second. I do want to just highlight some of the movies that went undrafted. We had a list of 37, 38 movies here. There were some things that just didn't get taken off the board. Maybe, you have some rationales to why. Fast X went undrafted. The Little Mermaid was not drafted. Transformers, Rise of the Beasts, no love there, apparently. Also undrafted, The Blackening is definitely another horror movie that's going to come out this summer, as well as Disney's Haunted Mansion. That's a sort of a reimagining of the Haunted Mansion movie that came out, what was that, maybe 20 years ago at this point, from Eddie Murphy. What else went undrafted here? You drafted Last Voyage of Demeter. Equalizer 3 also went undrafted. That's going to be the concluding entry into the Equalizer saga. White Men Can't Jump. That's another streaming movie that's going to come out later this month. The Mother, Hypnotic. Again, a lot of stuff here, but what were some of the reasons you might have strayed away from something like Fast X or The Little Mermaid, for example? Why didn't you show any love to those?
A lot of these are just track record, to be honest, man. The way they've been, I think, performing critically between peers and critics alike have just been a little too shaky for me. Fast X, for example, Fast 9, we didn't us as a unit, we didn't really think that was a great movie. Sure, the Fast franchise has movies we like in it, better movies in it, but again, just the way the last one went and this being a quick follow-up, it's hard to put this on the list. The same goes for Transformers. Actually, to be honest, if you're going in terms of anticipation, I'm actually very excited for Transformers Rise of the Beast. It's one of the first times that we're touching this part of the Transformers lore. And people who watched Beast Wars when we were younger, we're all excited to see that shit. I think it might be pretty fucking cool, actually. But Transformers just hasn't been leaving a good taste in my mouth over the past couple years, man. So that's the reason it doesn't make the list. It's hard to bet on something like that, man. It really is. And what was one of the other movies you said?
Oh, Little Mermaid also went undrafted.
Little Mermaid, live action, Disney, bro.
Yeah.
Still shaky. Same kind of story there, man. You just have to, there hasn't been enough proof of, I think, consistency, right? We said the other day, I remember me talking about Cinderella, I think 2015. I like that movie. It's a good live action Disney movie. I'd argue Maleficent, pretty decent live action Disney movie, right? Man, Mulan, you know what I'm saying? Lion King, whatever the heck we just watched there. Aladdin was okay. It was decent. But again, just not enough bringing the championship home with a lot of these movies that I need to say, okay. Also, I'm not a big fan of Little Mermaid trailer, to be honest. I don't like the way the movie looks.
I agree.
I
It's
don't
not. It's
like
not doing it for me.
I don't like the way Flounder looks. I love Halle. I think Halle Bailey's gonna be the best part of the movie. I am afraid of everything around her, and that is unfortunate. Hopefully, it changes my mind and subverts my expectations, but that's just how I feel going into it, man. I'm just not all the way sold yet. There's some other movies I am excited for, though. I think Haunted Mansion could be a sleeper. Talked about Transformers could be a sleeper. There's also that's that funny movie on here with Jennifer Lawrence. What is the name of that movie?
Oh yes, that
I've
comedy that's going to come
No
out.
hard feelings.
Yes, no hard feelings.
I think it might be hilarious. I think
Yeah,
that it could be one of the sleeper comedy hits of the summer if we're not paying attention. Like, I think they might have something there, but we'll have to see.
that's a really good one. I think Jennifer Lawrence is going to be playing a character that we haven't really seen her play before that can just cause a lot of surprise and shock in us as audience members. So I'm excited about that. I agree with everything you said about Little Mermaid and just, the 10th Fast and Furious movie, like the 7th Transformers movie. Like how good can these really be? I do have high hopes for especially Transformers, as you said. There's a lot of stuff to be excited about. Unicron was just in the most recent trailer that they dropped. I'm like, what the fuck? We're doing Unicron? Like
Yes.
this, it's a lot of cool stuff. And so hopefully it leans more into that Bumblebee energy as opposed to like those last couple of Transformers movies. Also just want to quickly mention Insidious The Red Door went undrafted, but
Yeah.
that's again like the 5th Insidious movie, and it's
Yeah.
like,
And that last Insidious.
oh, it was a
Oh my
train
God.
wreck. It was so bad. It was
Oh
not great
boy.
at all. So I'm coming into this one like very much cautious. I like Insidious as a whole as a franchise, but as you said, that last one just didn't do it at all. So yeah, some unproven stuff here, or at least some stuff that has to sort of reclaim their stake in
Exactly.
terms of being good movies, because this will be a list again based off of general consensus. And again, as we said earlier, this is going to be letterboxed opinions. So what people might react to and have positive reactions for on Letterboxd isn't going to look the same as what we might see on Cinema Score, Rotten Tomatoes. This is going to be very,
That's
very
true.
specific. So those are all of our picks. We will revisit this list at the end of summer after Labor Day is concluded. Once again, we'll take all of the weighted average scores for these movies on Letterboxd, and then we will calculate the overall average, and whoever has the higher number will be determined the winner of the 2023 summer movie draft. So definitely be on the lookout for that at the end of the summer. We'll come back and talk about that after Labor Day weekend. Let's move on and talk about box office, though, because beyond quality, beyond what's good, beyond what we actually like, there is a conversation to be had about the box office and how a movie performs financially. And this summer has no shortage of blockbusters. There's a ton of huge movies coming out. We've already highlighted a lot of them in terms of what their possible performance might look like, and also just some of these bigger swings from studios, either continuing franchises or looking to possibly kickstart new franchises. Now, this list isn't going to affect the list that we just did. That list is going to stand on its own, and that's going to be its own competition. But we're just doing this for fun, to talk about the box office, to talk about the movies that we think might have a really, really good showing this summer at the summer movie box office season. So I just want to ask you before we dive into, some of our picks for the movies that are going to perform exceptionally well in terms of financial returns. How are you feeling about the box office offerings and what that might look like this summer? Because last summer, we did get a number of like really big films. Top Gun Maverick dominated, made nearly 1.5 billion at the box office. Jurassic World, the final entry into that franchise, at least for now, crossed $1 billion. The most recent Minions movie crossed $1 billion. So there were some notable wins last summer. I think outside of those three huge ones, we didn't see too many other films really cross any notable thresholds in terms of their box office returns. But again, with a lot of these baked in huge IP franchises such as The Flash and Indiana Jones and Fast and the Furious and Little Mermaid, there's just a lot there in terms of how these can perform at the box office. What are your overall feelings? And do you think that the potential might exist that because we have so many options, some of these might cancel each other out and they might not make as much money as they would have made if it was a little bit more of an open playing field?
Yeah, man. First, wow, what a crazy summer this will be. These are usually movies that either try to avoid each other by a couple weekends, or you know what I mean, that'll try to come out a little bit separate, but this summer is just going to crack. It is what it is. And I do think a couple movies might suffer. By that same token, I think people are excited to get to the movie theater. I think more people will see two movies in a weekend this year than they would have in past years. I really do.
Mm.
I think people will say this movie and this movie are coming out. I gotta see both. Sure, there's still like your families, right? Who they have to pick one. They it's too much. Spend $130 to go to the movies for a family of five. It's already too insane. So they're gonna have to pick for sure. But I think people like you and me, or I say you're more casual movie watcher, I think they're going to be interested in seeing a lot of these, man. Like you said, these are big properties. Indiana Jones isn't small. Little Mermaid isn't small. Guardians of the Galaxy isn't small. You know what I mean? Like, so I really think people are going to potentially make an extra effort and add some of these things to their eventful summers. I really do. Hey, we're people could be on a rooftop Saturday morning and or Saturday afternoon and be like, man, I'm about to go home, take a nap, and go see the Flash. You know what I'm saying? I really do think some of that stuff is going to happen, man. So it's pretty crazy landscape, but I am excited about it. I'm excited to see how it turns out and the decisions people make. I think is the one of the more interesting things for me. The conversation we're having right now, like I'm saying people will do these things, but will they? You know what I mean? I can't wait to see what the behavior is.
Yeah, the box office, while we've had big wins recently, signs of a healthy box office, a healthy theatrical, sort of going movie moment, it's also been wildly unpredictable and just kind of insane at the same time, where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, before Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania came out, if somebody told me it would be the lowest grossing Ant-Man movie in the entire trilogy, I would have looked at you like you're crazy. Like, it has King the Conqueror, it got Quantum Mania, it's going to have these weird characters. Even if it ain't great, people are going to go see it. And then they didn't. They decided, I'm just going to wait on Disney Plus because it didn't get great feedback and reception. And so those options now, because people have been trained to stay home, has also impacted this conversation quite a lot, more so than it could have in previous years, because people do have those options. They have Disney Plus and they have Peacock and they have HBO Max. And if something isn't good, I think a lot more people are more willing to say, like, yeah, I'll just wait 2 months to see it. I'm not going to go rush and spend my money. I will actually wait because I know it's going to be on their streaming platform. I know the signs of the market. I know that these companies are very much trying to produce and drop the best, biggest titles on their platforms to win over my subscriber dollars. And so things also feel low-key kind of unpredictable at the same time. And so, if we did this list in 2019, I think there would have been some surefire locks like, yep, this will be number one, this will be number two. But now I think this is kind of fluctuating a little bit more than maybe in years past. Let's go ahead and do our lists. Unlike the last list, we both can have the same picks on our list. We both can have them in the same spots. It really doesn't matter. Like, we both can end up drafting, I don't know, Gran Turismo can be like the third highest grossing movie of the summer. Unlikely, but we could both have that on our list. But we're going to go through and pick out what we think are going to be the top 5 highest grossing movies at the worldwide box office. So we're going to take in all of the box office receipts, not only domestically, but also in other international countries. And then we'll revisit this list again at the end of the summer during Labor Day weekend and just see how things shook out and see what performed the best, what had the highest returns at the box office. And so because I went first in the movie draft, I'll allow you to go. Just, give off your first picks. What do you think is going to be the highest grossing movie? Actually, you know what? Let's work the other way. Let's go. Let's go in decent. Yeah, let's go from the bottom. So out of the top 5, what do you think is going to be the 5th highest grossing movie of the summer box office this season?
Man, what a hard list to choose from, man. From the bottom, I'm going to say the 5th spot. Man, what a crazy summer. It's going to go to Mission Impossible. I think Mission Impossible is going to be the 5th highest grossing film of the summer of 2023. Yep.
That makes sense. The Mission Impossible movies, they have done really, really well, but they've not necessarily been known to be, billion-dollar grossers per se. They've made very respectable movie. I think the most recent one was the highest grossing. It crossed like 700 million. And so I don't know if it'll do Top Gun Maverick money, to your point, but could still definitely bring in some huge box office returns, especially if it's of the same quality of what Tom Cruise has produced before. So that makes sense. My number 5 on this list, I'm gonna go The Flash. I'm gonna pick The Flash, which I'm also a little unsure about because The Flash has the potential to make like $1 billion plus and be like one of the biggest hits. But also at the same time, the conversation around DC is just so uncertain right now. Like things that would have performed really well in years past might not perform as well. I do also think that some folks, not a huge amount of the audience, but I do think some folks are just going to look at it and say like, yeah, DC's rebooting in like 2 years. I'm going to skip it or just wait for HBO Max. Why would I go see it? And there will probably be an even smaller percentage of people, it might be like 4 people that look and see Ezra Miller and say, I'm not going to go see that. I don't think that's going to be most of the
Yeah.
audience because I don't think most people are really privy to what Ezra Miller has been doing for the past couple of years, but it might affect it somewhat. It might affect it somewhat, but I do think it's still going to overperform exceptionally and be one of the higher grossing DC movies, but I'm going to put it in my number 5 spot for right now.
So The Flash is actually my number 4 spot. So you might as well go ahead and put it there now. And it's crazy because the potential of The Flash, whether it's the potential, the ceiling and the floor, to me are both crazy. And I think the ceiling though is so interesting, not just because of Ezra Miller, but because of Grant, right? The DC TV Flash. I know a lot of people who love the Flash, the TV show, who watched it to the end. I mean, they was there every week, legit watching the Flash. I think the movie is going to get some of those people. I do. I also think there's a big group of people who've seen that trailer and said Michael Keaton Batman who, and we'll be there to watch the Flash. And I think we not necessarily are discounting that number, but I do think that number is bigger than we think it is. Just those two, who people who love the Flash TV show and people who love Michael Keaton as Batman, I think are just going to pull up by itself. Then you add in all of the DCEU nerds, the DC nerds, the people who heard word of mouth about the movie. The ceiling for the movie is crazy. Is the floor just as crazy? Probably, yeah. The floor is just as crazy of all the reasons you just said. But the ceiling's kind of insane as well, especially if it turns out to be a good movie. And I think The Flash has a lot of potential to even be higher on the list than 4th or 5th spot that we have it. So we'll just have to see when it comes out.
Yeah, the last DC movie to cross $1 billion at the worldwide box office was Aquaman. And not that $1 billion is like the baseline measurement of success for what's going to perform well, because all 5 of these movies that we list will not make $1 billion. That's just not going to happen. But this could, like you say, the ceiling for it could be extremely high if word of mouth continues to be super positive, if conversations about surprises and who's in it and, what characters from the past might pop up, that just gets people really excited to talk about that stuff. And we are in a multiverse era, and I think we've seen that work and we've also seen that not work. I'm hoping that the 2 examples in June, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and The Flash, I hope that they both deliver on this multiverse premise, maybe more so than some recent films have done. So definitely makes a lot of sense. Number 4 on my list in terms of what's going to make the most money at the box office, I'm putting Fast X. I'm putting that on here. Fast and Furious franchise has a very diverse global audience. Even in the throes of the pandemic back in 2021 and a movie that was poorly received, F9 still pulled in like over 700 million at the worldwide box office. So the fact that people showed up for that at that particular time kind of says a lot that, yeah, people just want to see these movies. They want to go to the movie theater and watch the Fast and Furious movies. And this is going to be the first part of the closing chapter of this particular franchise. And now that we are sort of fully back at the box office and it's going to have this huge wide release, I think it's going to perform exceptionally well. Don't know about the quality of the movie. That doesn't necessarily speak to that, but people are going to show up for Fast and Furious always. So that's going to be on my number 4 for highest grossing of the summer box office.
Yeah, man, similar list here. You must go ahead and put that in my 3rd spot. I definitely have Fast X there as well. And man, everything you just said, like, it's still crazy blockbuster action. There's still a trailer where Vin Diesel was crashing helicopters with his car. He is driving down a dam. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the definition of like mindless action, but it does feel summery. You know what I mean? It does feel like a movie that you go watch because at this point it's ridiculous and people want to see the ridiculousness. Not only that, you just added Jason Momoa to like the longest list of stars you've ever seen. It's like, this is crazy, man. Charlize Theron, Brie Larson's, and it's just a lot. It's a lot. But I think that is attractive to the eye of a blockbuster movie. I really do. I still think it's going to make the money. We're going to be there to see it. You know what I'm saying? So I still think people are also just going to be there to see how crazy and ridiculous that movie is, man. And not only that, but I'm not going to pretend like there's never been a good Fast movie. You know what I'm saying? Like there are good Fast movies in there somewhere. So people still hold on to that. People still hold on at least to the I think the experience of going to see fast movies in theaters where everyone together is like, what the heck? Or everyone, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's still fun in going to see these fast movies. And I think people are going to show up just for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things where you look at the trailer, you see a long list of cast members, a huge ensemble, like you said, big, mindless, dumb action. It has all the makings to just be super successful. And you get the vibes of the movie, you get the music, you get the culture, the different countries, the
Mm-hmm.
espionage. I mean, that's what summer blockbusters are, as good or as bad as they may be. So we'll have to see how Fast X ultimately performs, but that makes sense as a pick for sure. Number three on my list is something you already put as number five, and that's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. I'm actually gonna go ahead and sort of over index on that one and think it overperforms compared to previous entries. I think it will
Mm-hmm.
end up being the highest grossing of the Mission Impossible movies. I think the high that Tom Cruise and his brand is riding right now, it ain't never been a hotter flame really for a movie star in quite a while. I would say, at least resting on the shoulders of one person. And if anything, they've been promoting this movie since the release of Top Gun Maverick. Like the first trailer for Mission Impossible was
Mm-hmm.
attached to Top Gun Maverick. I remember sitting in the movie theater thinking like, this man's a motherfucking genius. Like he already got our tickets booked 12, 13 months out. And so I think that all of that stuff is going to equate to a really, really exceptional performance for this movie. And once again, similar to Fast X, it's setting up the final chapter. It's setting up like what's going to come next. And so typically we've seen those movies perform really well. And then the huge blow off in the final movie is going to be probably the highest grossing of the entire franchise. So I'm going to put that as my number three. Let's keep it pushing though. What's in your number two spot? The second highest grossing movie of the summer you think is going to come out?
I have at my number two spot Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, man. I
Wow. Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? I
You know this is
know. We got some
worldwide, right? This is the entire Earth box office that we're taking into account. I just want to throw that
I
back out
know.
there.
I know. I just have a weird feeling about that number one spot, man. This is it. We'll see though. It's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be actually closer than we think it is. But man, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, of course, it really speaks for itself. Very excited about this film. The first Into the Spider-Verse did what it needed to do. I think we're all accustomed to loving that movie now, at least to some degree. You know what I mean? So of course, I think it's going to do something ridiculous at the box office. Yeah, and I'm just excited, man, to see. I think the reception of the movie, because it still does have to be good. Don't get me wrong. Like, the movie still has to come out, and this movie still has to be good. But I'm very hopeful that it will do great in the box office again, given what the first one did. And I think it's only going to exceed that. So I'm excited.
Ah man, that I mean, it would be a huge jump. I got to be honest. I didn't include Across the Spider Verse in my list. The first one, it did well for what it cost. I think it made a little bit over 350 million worldwide, which is super respectable, but also not like this huge dominant, maybe
Right.
$750 million, sort of global grosser. So it would definitely have to make a huge bump from the first movie to the second movie. But if any movie could do it, it is this movie, just because I think although like the entire world didn't go see the first one in theaters, the word of mouth that's come out about it in the past
Mm-hmm.
4 years, the Oscar win, just the praise that it's gotten, the influence that it's obviously been showing across the board. This could have a huge audience pop up. Not to mention, once again, the multiverse element is coming off of what we saw with No Way Home. There might be a bump with that, like that's live action, but there are ties there. So
It is.
it has the potential to go far for sure. So we'll certainly see. I very much am interested to see the performance of Across the Spider Verse. My number two pick is actually The Little Mermaid from Disney, because those movies make money. That's just the bottom line to it. Those movies make a lot of money, regardless
That's
of
the
their
bottom line.
quality. They make money. I mean, just look at the history books. Beauty and the Beast is a copy, shot for shot remake of the animated movie, and it made like 1.3 billion at the box office.
Yep.
The Lion King, the live action, quote unquote, whatever we want to call it, National Geographic documentary, blah 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 blah. I don't care to talk about that movie. 1.6 billion at the box office. It made that in its sleep just because it put the Lion King name on it. So if any movie's going to make money, it's going to be The Little Mermaid, whether it's good or not. I hope it's good. I want it to be good, especially for all the things you mentioned earlier, but have a lot of reservations and hesitations about the quality of the movie. But I think people are going to show up regardless. I know I'm going to show up. People who love the animated movie are going to show up. The music is going to do what it needs to do. The only thing working against it, though, and this is unfortunate to say, it's the casting of Halle Bailey. It's going to be the people who are like, that's not my Ariel. She's not supposed to be black. Shut the fuck up. Like all that stuff is going to still play a
Mm-hmm.
factor. You're going to get
Yeah.
people that just like sit it out and possibly wait for Disney Plus, but I still think it's going to just pull in all sorts of cash at the box office. So I'm putting it at number 2.
Oh man, I think it's going to do so crazy that's my number one spot. That's how crazy I
It
think
makes
Little
sense.
Mermaid is about to be, bro. Cause it I just know the world now. And after Beauty and the Beast is one thing, Aladdin is one thing, Lion King is another thing. This is a princess underwater. You know what I'm saying? Like the princess movies already go stupid. Live action princess and it's a mermaid is gonna be. It's like, to me, it's like the power of put Frozen with, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna be something insane that we've never seen, and I just really have a feeling that this movie's gonna do something stupid. People love princess movies. It's live action. Like you said, the only thing is the Halle Bailey being black, all the racist shit, whatever. But this, the Little Mermaid, is people love the music too much. You're gonna have your nostalgia people. You're gonna have your little girls across the world who just want to see the Little Mermaid sing. And there's gonna be dolls to come out, and there's gonna be, I don't know, follow-up cartoons. I don't know what's going to be, but this it's going to shake up the world, whether, to me, if it's good or bad. Because it is, yeah, it's just another level. This is like Disney princess. This isn't Mulan. This is a Disney singing ass princess. And so I think it's going to do something crazy. That's my number one highest grossing movie of the summer for sure, until proven otherwise.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes all the sense in the world. Just, I mean, as we said, the track record is there, and if nothing else, I mean, The Little Mermaid as an IP is there. That's a movie that spanned multiple generations now. It's one of their most beloved animated classics, and it's kind of, if we're being honest, it's kind of their last huge one. Like for real. Like Snow White's still on the way,
That's
and
true.
that could be huge, obviously, because Snow White is, the first animated movie from Disney, but they've done the big ones. They've done Mulan, they've done The Lion King, they've done Jungle Book, they've
They
done
did.
Cinderella, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. Even they Little Mermaid kind of scratches like that last huge one, because beyond
Mm-hmm.
that, a lot of these other ones have coming out on Disney Plus, like Peter Pan. They just did that. Pinocchio. It's like
Mm-hmm. That's
they're
true.
not that huge to necessarily go to theaters, I guess, in this day and age. And so this might be their big blow off until they decide to make sequels to stuff that already exists. They are making a Lion King sequel. There's an Aladdin sequel talk happening right now. So we're just going to enter into that territory, but makes sense for sure. My number one overall pick, the movie that I think is going to make the most money at the summer movie box office this season, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Have a lot of faith and a lot of hope in this one. I think because this is a big blow off, this is going to be the concluding chapter for this franchise and for these characters. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounded like it's good. It sounded like it's really, really good at that. I think that's going to get people to show up. I think if a Marvel movie is really good or strong, people will show up for it. They still want to go to the theaters for that experience. I can't tell you how many times I've been on Twitter or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
people are like, I only go to the movies to see Marvel movies. That breaks my fucking heart, but at the same time, it's the reality of where we're at. And if a Marvel movie is good, if people have some hope in it and they think that it's gonna be worth their while, I think they'll show up. And I think Guardians is kind of pointing in that direction, at least from the early buzz and reaction for it. As long as it sort of sticks to landing for the most part, I think it's going to do exceptionally well. I think that this one can cross $1 billion at the box office as well. It'll be the first Guardians to do that if it does indeed achieve that feat. So we'll have to see what it all shapes out to be, but that is my number one pick. So let's just quickly go back through these picks, and we got a couple more things we'll talk about. But my number 5 is The Flash. Number 4 is Fast X. Number 3 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Number 2, The Little Mermaid. And number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
My number 5 pick is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. My number 4 pick is The Flash. My number 10 pick is Fast X. My number 2 pick is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And the movie I think is going to win the summer box office is The Little Mermaid.
No doubt about it. So before we close out here, we mentioned this earlier. There's some big showdowns at the box office, and conspicuous by their absence, neither of us listed Barbie or Oppenheimer on our
Mm-hmm.
top 5 highest grossing movies at the summer box office. But I think we both we both know that these movies are going to make a lot of money, for
They
sure.
are.
Christopher Nolan
Mhm.
as a brand still pulls in a lot of people to check his movies out in theaters. I mean, he can pretty much make $500 million north of that in his sleep if it's a movie, if it's a good movie. And Barbie, again, baked in IP that people know. Everybody knows Barbie. Who doesn't know Barbie, right? And you have a ton of big stars that are associated with it. They're
Mhm.
going head to head the same weekend. This is the showdown of the summer. Like there's also Elemental and The Flash, but I think that's a little bit to a lesser degree of a showdown because the people that want to go see Elemental are going to go see that. The people that want to see The Flash are going to go see that. There's also the Disney Plus element there. Like people might wait on Elemental, but Barbie versus Oppenheimer, it's very calculated because Chris Nolan used to be very much a part of the Warner Brothers system. He was not a fan of what they did back in 2021 with their day and date release strategy, took his business over to Universal, decided to make a movie with them instead. They just rolled out the red carpet for him, said, you can make a movie at any budget. You can determine the release window, all of that stuff. You have carte blanche. Barbie, on the other hand, is coming out from Warner Brothers, the studio that he formerly worked for. And at this point, neither movie's budging. They're both coming out the same weekend. And that weekend, I believe, is July 21st. And so it's going to be super interesting to see who wins the box office. Do you have any early thoughts or predictions for who you think is going to walk away as the number one movie, at least at the domestic box office that weekend? Because some of the international releases might not be determined yet. Some of those movies might hit later in certain international markets. But at the 3-day domestic box office opening weekend, when we come back to the podcast and record, what do you think we'll be talking about as the number one winner that weekend?
You know, it's very hard to tell. I will say from a let's go off. I'm gonna go off the Twitter timeline, and what I will say is that the timeline is far more excited for Barbie than they are for Oppenheimer. People seen that trailer and they seen not only actors and actresses that were familiar, but Barbie, which is all too familiar, right? And I think that adds something into the mix. What I will give Oppenheimer is in the theater in AMC, there's going to be a battle for these premium screens. And something I don't know what's going to happen, but Christopher Nolan knows how to get his movie on IMAX. I will say that he knows how to get a movie in IMAX and Dolby and so on and so forth, man. So it's really hard to tell, but I think for right now, again, the way the timeline is going, I think Barbie might just have a small edge. I could be wrong about that because there's also another group that I didn't see on Twitter of cinephiles
It's like the
that are
shadow
gonna
group that
be the
exists.
shadow group that's gonna be Christopher Nolan only. You know what I'm saying? They're like, Barbie, who? I'm going to go see this because Oppenheimer very much is or could be a dad movie, right? Like it could be a bunch of dudes, a bunch of white dudes are not about to go and walk and go to go see Barbie. They're just not. It is what it is, but they're definitely going to go see Oppenheimer. So it really is like all of those people versus everyone else, kind of to me in my mind. And so I don't know, man. It's really hard to tell, but for right now, I'm going with Barbie just at this moment in for what the excitement seems to be.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation because they're also two completely opposite movies. I mean, they couldn't be more different, right? You got Chris Nolan, pretty much a modern day legend in his own right, has made so many movies that many people enjoy, especially that cinephile demographic you mentioned. But also Greta Gerwig, this is now her third huge movie, but it's also her first time stepping up to something of this stature, of this caliber, with this type of budget and this type of star power behind it. But I think Barbie wins in its sleep. I think Barbie is absolutely walking away with this, and I don't think it's going to be close, if I'm being honest,
That's fair.
because just imagine Friday night, you pull up to the movies, and maybe you have not determined what you want to see, or maybe you're on the fence about something, and you walk into the marquee and you see a poster for Barbie with Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie and Issa Rae and Simu Liu, and then you look next to it and you see a poster of a man standing in front of an explosion, and you see a film by Chris Nolan. I ask you what movie you're going to pick to go see first. I bet you 10 times out of 10 it's going to be fucking Barbie. Even if you don't know if it's going to be good, even if you don't care about Barbie as a brand, you want to see what it's about. You want to see what are they going to do with Barbie of all things. And the way that they're promoting this movie, as you said, the timelines, just the whole release strategy and the marketing has been very, very good so far. Kudos to them, 10 out of 10. I think Chris Nolan certainly will have a fan base. And Oppenheimer might outleg Barbie. Overall, it might do
Mm-hmm.
better. It might make more money. But I think in that opening weekend in particular, which a lot of people are going to be focusing on, I think people are going to prioritize seeing Barbie first, especially on that, Thursday, Friday, Saturday frame, as opposed to seeing Oppenheimer, which they might, if they want to see both, they might just wait on Oppenheimer, maybe check it out later in the week on Tuesday, maybe wait
Right.
until the next weekend as like the other big
Mm-hmm.
movie that I'll check out this summer. I think Barbie's definitely going to win, and I'm excited to see. I'll be excited for either to win, but it's rare we get this type of matchup between two rival studios, which also have sort of a mutual history linked together because of Chris Nolan, and you also have two movies that are just wildly different from each other coming out on the
Yeah.
same weekend. So it'll be certainly exciting to see, nonetheless. But folks, that's all we have for this episode of Two Black Nerds. Thank you again for tuning into another podcast, and thank you again for tuning into the first ever Two Black Nerds 2023 summer movie draft. We certainly had a lot of fun doing this. Hopefully we can continue to do this in future years as long as we get enough movies.